old heart impacts past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions. Fact, don't ask, grab reactions. Jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused. Call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now. Y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Shinsho here. And now, whenever we last left off, we had Izuki Midoriya. They had just taken over another AIM facility base, and have gotten certain answers. Izuki and her people learning about the Weapon X program. Now, along with that, within the base, they are actually able to free people who are undergoing certain augmentations, and finding out who they cannot free, because it could be disastrous to their health. Now, with all of that being said, we do actually pick up with everybody a few hours later, where Izuki, she actually does walk out and is at the very top of the base. Now, she actually does begin to start walking around and start thinking. It is a very peaceful night. But then again, it all does feel strange. Her adrenaline is still pumping, and time doesn't really seem to pass very well for her anymore. Now that she does actually just think about it, all of her life has been combat, and death. She's still trying to come to terms with everything, and trying to understand it all. There should be things that she can imagine. For her age, she shouldn't be like this. She should be happy. She should be in high school. However, right now, she's in the middle of a forest, and she just killed a whole lot of people today. And then there's the fact that she faced off against robots. Now, if she were to have told that to a normal person, they would have thought she was crazy. Even though quirks do exist. Now, while she is actually walking, she does eventually hear something and go to Spindu, react to it, finding out that it's Shinsho. Him actually going to walk back to the base. Now, they actually do see each other, and Izuki actually does ask him if he's doing alright. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Are you sure? Because you kinda just stormed out of there. Even then, you didn't kill the guy. Bastard would have deserved it. Yeah, well, we need him for information. Right now, he's recovering in the med bay. He'll be fine in a few weeks. However, what happened back there? I've seen you lose your cool before, but not like that. Huh. Really? You don't know the full story. Fuck. I don't expect you to understand. Especially with how him bring up his metal hand and pointing directly at her, saying especially how their lives have been different. She isn't even from this country, nor is she even from the same programs that they have all been in. Going on to explain that she can't really understand anything about it all. To which Izuki does actually retort. She's from Russia and the Black Widow Project. If he wants her to understand something, then understand this. Her spouting off about the broken veil, and talking about how they have had their memories manipulated ever since they were children. In fact, she had her memories changed whenever she was 4, spouting off that whenever her parents died in a car accident, the KGB not only caused it, but they then messed with her head. And the man that was her handler pretended to be a friend. He knew exactly what they did, yet he didn't bat an eye to it, shouting that he messed with her head just as much as anyone there, and she put him in the ground, just like anyone else there. That catching Shinsho off guard. Asking her about that. What does she mean by a broken veil? Her going on to state that she can break through brainwashing. She's done it multiple times before, and she's not too certain about it. They always have to adjust things, and constantly be inside your mind. Her going on to talk about certain dreams. Dreams where she's a ballerina, and that she can move freely. She can dance and sing, and she feels happy. And her parents are sitting there in the crowds. Whenever her song and dance is over, they stand up and begin to clap. All eyes on her. And she's beautiful. Talking about how that's all she's ever really wanted. But then there's the grim reality. Her dreams do change. They can jump from those situations to ones where she can't even recognize her own self. Talking about how she once found herself in a place she did not recognize, somewhere in Russia, listing off a city that was across the country from where she currently was. Talking about how she's seen her face in a mirror, and it was covered in blood, and there was somebody in front of her. She beat the man's face directly into a sink until he was unrecognizable. And she continues to yell at Shinsho. If he wants her to understand, then she might be able to, but he can't even understand her then. Now, Shinsho actually does watch some tears roll out of Izuki's eyes as she does say those words. And he actually does apologize. Izuki actually going to run off into the forest. And Shinsho, he actually does decide to follow. Now, eventually the two do find themselves together. And Shinsho, he actually does somewhat apologize, talking about how she might actually understand a lot more than he thought. Now, with that, the two start conversations. And he does inform her of the rest of the story that I told you guys in the last part, about his metal arm and how he got it. And about that way he killed the man who took his arm from him. Izuki finds that to be reminiscent of the full brainwashing effect her friends are under. Talking about how she was lucky, how she escaped. The Black Widow Project, they wanted a perfect assassin. However, in order to be perfect, you need to use your mind as well. So, they inadvertently created a perfect assassin. However, it doesn't listen to them. Now, that is what Shinsho actually does here. Somewhat laughing. And he actually does find that to be funny. It reminds him of his situation. Back in his base. As he actually does talk about the day he broke free. Now, Shinsho does actually go on a bit of an explanation. And Izuki, she actually is very surprised to hear his story. Now, let us cut back around a year ago. Somewhere within Japan. In a very secret and underground facility. Where Shinsho has been approved for the Weapon X program, and they were actually going to begin development and research to change him further. Now, with that, we actually do pick up with the scientist, as they are currently monitoring Shinsho's brain activity, and exactly what is going through his head. As we actually do cut to him. His arms are restrained, and so are his feet, as he is floating in a giant test tube. And he actually does have a giant mask covering his head. As his hair floats freely, it's covering the front portion of his face. As he also does have a tube that is coming into the mask, feeding him oxygen. Now, the men or the scientists who are currently doing this to Shinsho are also feeding him information that is going into his visor. That is supposed to put him even further under their influence. Now, Shinsho is actually conscious, and he is able to hear what they are saying. However, their monitors are telling them that Shinsho is in a state of unconscious, or hypnosis. Now, with that, they actually are talking, and Shinsho actually does hear what they are saying. They are talking about how he has done everything they've ever wanted. He's killed their targets, those who go against them. He is perfect, and that he has gone further than any other test subject without dying. Now, they do continue talking, and Shinsho does find what they're saying to be quite interesting, as they go over exactly what they're going to do, telling them that Shinsho can still go further, and that the subject has been signed onto Weapon X and approved. So, once they do this, they must terminate other subjects, or the failures who have not gotten this far. Now, one of the scientists do actually object, talking about the moral about why this is wrong. And the scientists do not really care, talking about how they've already discussed this before. They've killed everyone connected to each subject, and terminating the subjects will not be any different. As far as the legalities of it already, the subjects are already pronounced dead, and along with them and their families. Talking about how, if they just dumped them all out into the middle of nowhere, no one would really bat an eye. And Shinsho did actually hear this, and he began to get enraged. Now, this is whenever his brain activity randomly just starts to spike, and they actually do try and restrain Shinsho more. He's already broken one of the bonds to his right arm, and is currently ripping the left one off. Now, he actually does proceed to smash the glass casing of the tank he is in, before going to rip the visor off of his face. Them trying to tase him and make sure that he cannot get away. Now, as soon as they do tase him, they find that this just pisses him off more, as he begins a bloody rampage, and goes on the full offensive, using an implemented weapon in his right arm, a giant blade, and he just begins to stab through each one of the men. Now, Shinsho, he does continue his conversation, or his story, talking about how he killed every single one of them in that room, and he left the one who told everyone about what they're planning to do to the other candidates alive last. Shinsho explaining the entire story, He was full of so much rage, and he still had that thing connected to his head, trying to give him orders. And the man, he kept trying to say something. He kept trying to say certain things, certain codes. He doesn't know what he was saying. However, Shinsho was just far too angry to even listen. The entire world felt like it was gone. And Shinsho, he could still hear that man. Hear his voice and hear him cry. Hear him beg. The man begged for his very life. They all did. And Shinsho massacred them. He then proceeded to go throughout the entire base and go on a bloody rampage. He's not too sure what happened to that place. All he knows is he got away. And he still does wonder, what happened to everyone there? He doesn't know if they were all terminated. He doesn't know if they're alive. Some of his best friends are still left in that building. And he doesn't even remember where it is. Asking Izuki if him not feeling any remorse for his actions makes him a monster. And Izuki? She doesn't really know how to respond, as she actually just tells Shinsho about her encounters with the KGB, explaining to him about what she had to do. How one of her best friends, a girl with a blade quirk, they got along fairly well. They ate lunch together. They even went on a camping trip together. They were out in the wilderness for a long time. And even then, they were all simply told a few things. You need to step on everyone you can to get to the top. If you work with somebody, you are seen as weak. And you should have done it alone. Things that have been constantly hammered into them. And Izuki, she didn't really understand it all. And then there was that final day. She was sent after somebody to kill them. And she went with her handler, the man who virtually raised her in her parents' place, and who was basically an accomplice to their murder. Now, she talks about how she met with Mitsuki, a woman who knew her mother better than she ever could, and about how she was supposed to murder her. However, that night, instead of murdering her, she went after Ivan, and she killed him. He was going to say something, and it scares her. He was going to say a code that they have to put her under brainwashing. So, that's what she does remember. His mouth opening. And what she does fear. Her freedom being taken away. Saying that if she ever does hear something, her one problem with it is what those words could be. She doesn't even know them. And nothing she's ever read in the program has said what they were. Now, this is actually kind of interesting. Shinsho asking her what she does mean. Izuki explained that she thinks that she's a ticking time bomb. That if she ever does hear those words, that it could be the death of her, or anyone she is close to. She already had to kill her friend, because of the monster she turned into. Mindless, heartless, no remorse. They turn you into nothing more than a puppet. And they treat you like a machine, a tool. Now, Izuki, she actually does somewhat begin to break down a bit, going off on a tangent about her fears and everything she has done. As Shinsho, he does actually try to comfort her, explaining that they've all done bad things. However, right now, they're doing bad things for the right reason. And they need to keep doing those bad things for that good reason. Now, Izuki, she actually does somewhat agree. And Shinsho actually does wipe away her tears. Now, these two are actually somewhat getting close. And they actually do recall the first day they met. Izuki asking Shinsho about that base. To which he simply just says that he found it. The place was already abandoned. And he was actually looking for information there. Around that time, he still did not know anything. Yeah, and it was very annoying looking on his own. In fact, call it him softening up if she would like, but he likes it when more people are around. He has some peace of mind. Especially when those people are similar to him. Now, with that being said, Izuki actually does pick up on this. And she does actually ask him what he wants to do once this is all over. To which he doesn't really know what to say. Talking about he just wants to find any family he has left. And figure out if they are safe. Figure out what to do. In fact, it's strange. Whenever you have nothing to protect, you feel like a monster. You feel like you aren't human. When you have nothing to lose, what does that make you? Izuki, someone just saying, it can make you dangerous. Or it can make you weak. It can make you feel like the world is crumbling all around you. Even whenever it's simply just standing still. Now, with that, Shinsho actually has picked up on how she's saying this. And he actually does go to kiss her. Her actually quite surprised. And Izuki, she actually does not pull away. However, after Shinsho did freeze up for a second, she actually did have to. Ask him if he was alright. To which he somewhat did actually say that he's fine. He just forgot that that was a thing. And Izuki does somewhat laugh, helping Shinsho onto his feet as they both do go back to the base. Until the paralysis does eventually wear off. Now, with all being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing night. I will catch you guys in the next part.